Happy Sunday. I am excited. Today marks the last day of our extreme punishment review, which I have really enjoyed. I know I stayed away from this book for a long time because the word was that, oh, he was all pro Wendy and we shouldn't read it. And I'm kind of sad I waited this long. I had started the Audible version a while back, and this really made me do a whole in-depth review because this was not just a book club, it was Leslie's version of Cliff's Notes. And good morning, I am Leslie B. Welcome, Jason. Happy to have you here as member of the Food Truck Gang, and good morning to everybody. And this could be kind of lengthy, so I'm not going to go through and welcome everybody. Just know I'm so happy y'all are here. And as we go through, if you have questions, feel free to post them, and we will certainly do our best to answer. But like I said, this one it's just got a lot of good stuff, and we like good stuff, right? All right, so Extreme Punishment is over 500 pages, and it is in depth, but I think it is a very fast read. So I do highly recommend it. I am only doing just highlights, and a lot of the times I will show trial footage because the whole chapter might be him describing Georgia and Tara's opening statements. So I think it's best just to actually show that. But he starts out 27, chapter 27 is, if you want to arrest me, effing arrest me. And that is a Charlie Adelson quote from Dolce Vita. So we just ended last book club with Charlie's arrest, which that was epic. And you need to go back and listen to that if you have not. It's under videos. I did a condensed version of just Charlie's arrest. I highly, highly recommend it. But let's get started. All right, Dolce Vita. We know this was kind of a changing point. So in 2019, Katie and Sigfredo were tried together for the murder of Dan Markel. Sigfredo was convicted and Katie had a hung jury. So now fast forward many years later because of COVID, and 2022 happens. The trial, it's Katie's retrial, and they finally got the Dolce Vita recording enhanced due to some awesome help, which we also talked about last week. I'm not going to play that whole video either because it's 41 minutes, but I do have some key points I want to highlight. So not only did this help in the conviction of Katie, but it also then led to the arrest of Charlie Boy. All right. And I have the volume up as loud as it will go. The captions are on the screen if y'all want to read it. I'm going to play the first minute. Well, this is a minute to where I have it in. It's from 0 seconds to 1 minute, 3 seconds. Okay, they're about to open up the picture into a Dolce Vita, which is like a gelato pizza place or something in Florida. But Charlie says to Katie, if they had any evidence, we would have already gone to the airport. The problem is, even if they bug us, even if they bug your home phone, nobody is going.
So my point is, how do you get people to talk? You put a smoke grenade, and then you get all the cockroaches to run out. There's smoke in the house, smoke in the house. And everyone's running, and everyone's talking. And you throw a smoke grenade, what do you think? Listen, if that's what it was, it's very smart, because that beat my mom. My mom never had to flip out me, but my mom had to call my dad anyway.
I love that Charlie is like this, 40-year-old man. He's like always talking about his mom, but he's saying, oh, this bump. So the bump has just gone down the day prior on April 19th, 2016. This is April 20th, 2016. And Harvey still doesn't know about the bump, but he's going to find out because he gets the second bump in the mail. So he's talking to Katie, and you can't really hear Katie much at all. Yeah, sorry, Charlie, you're a roach. Yeah, he talks about, oh yeah, you go throw a grenade in, you get rid of the roaches. I mean, it's pretty smart. Yeah, it is smart. That's right, because the FBI was involved. Then he also talks about how he's an oral surgeon, and if they were going to charge him, then charge me. So I'm going to play that. It's a little over, or it's almost just shy of, it's about a minute and a half.
Yeah, and guess what? When the fucking police show up, and there's a doctor, and there's an oral surgeon standing there with a dead gang member on the driveway, they're not going to come down too hard on me.
I mean, just listen to that. He's so arrogant. And guess what? When the effing police show up and there's a doctor, there's an oral surgeon standing there with a dead gang member in his effing driveway, they're not going to come down too hard on me. I'm not going to talk anyway. I don't know. I don't trust them.
I'm not going to talk anyway. I don't know much. I don't trust them. This is not like some chick showing off tattoos to your man. Like, this is actually serious, because these people are going to come back. They didn't go through the trouble of taking my mom out to do that.
Okay, so Charlie's trying to explain to Katie just how important this is. And I just, he can't help. He just got to belittle her. Katie, this is not like some chick showing off tattoos to your man. This is happening, and it's serious, because these people are going to come back. They didn't go through the trouble of seeking my mom out to hand her that and then go away.
So I got two options. They're not going away. And they wish to go away and never come back. They ain't going away. The trouble they see. Well, with the beard or with the badge? Well, I don't. If a badge comes up to you, tell them have a nice day, officer. Listen, if they want to charge me something, charge me. If not, I don't talk to cops. Sorry.
So again, trying to figure this out because this guy had a beard. I mean, it's not done this way. Charlie says, I don't know. Listen, if a badge comes up to you, tell them, have a nice day, officer. Listen, if they want to charge me with something, charge me. If not, I don't talk to cops. Sorry.
No, it's very simple. Like, if you're going to charge me.
Yeah, it is very simple, Charlie. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah, if you're going to charge me, charge me. Yeah, exactly, Jenny. And so they did. Charged and convicted. Yeah, Skier, let me mansplain this to you. I agree. Patricia Burns, hello. Narcissists think that every thought they have is an epiphany that elevates well above the hoi polo, in my opinion. I might have just butchered that. But yes, you're exactly right, Tater. If they do get caught, nobody will arrest them because they're a paradonis. Yes, Tater. Narcissists don't realize how their narcissism works against them. Their own arrogance deceives them, and they will never get caught. Hi, Crows and Gallows. Charlie just can't help his big mouth. Just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Absolutely. And that I agree, Tater. Innocent people want to talk to cops because they want to give their confirmed alibi and be marked off the list. Guilty, don't talk to cops. Good point. Yeah, hey, Southern Miss mansplains everything. He sure does. Okay. Then Charlie is mansplaining again to Katie about how the law works in his eyes. So he is just convinced. So he does this whole story about robbing Burger King. So I took that just to make a little short video. I tried to clear up the audio. I think it might have actually just made it a little bit worse. I tried to edit out some of the Dolce Vita stuff. This is just under 2 minutes, but he gives an analogy about robbing a Burger King, trying to, dumb it down for Katie.
Brother said he did it. You got to prove it. You got to put the person into scene. You understand? In order to prove it, you have to put that person at the scene at the time, not in the car. Because the fact is, it's like, even if, let's say, you just have my car, right? And then I go ahead and I commit a crime, and then I go, and you're getting into the car, and I go, yeah, Katie was in my car, and he got out, and she did this horrible crime. Okay, and they come and they get the DNA in the car, and they go, yeah, Katie was in the car. No, Katie sat in the car for 2 minutes, got out of the EDC, and then got out of the car. Katie has nothing to do with the Burger King evidence. So even if I could prove that, yeah, Katie was guilty, can you put Katie at the Burger King? I can put Katie, say that she sat in the car, yes. Two is we have to get in the car and then we interrogation. We know you were going to car, such a thing, and she went in and even if your DNA, your fingerprints, fucking hair is all over that fucking car. Then proves, yeah, congratulations, you were in the car. It's not a crime to sit in a car. Again, you know what I mean? My mom could have sat in the car. It's a common crime. Yeah, prove it. Put you in the scene. The guy's name was Oh. I don't even know if it's called. Is it? Oh. So those cars were in that. And I knew that you could help your family, and her family down.
All right. So the audio I know kind of went down there, but he's talking about, oh, don't worry. Katie, I mean, we weren't there. We weren't there. We weren't at the scene. You have to be at the scene. You can't just be sitting in the car. You have to actually be at the scene. And we weren't there. We've done nothing wrong. Really? No, not how it works. He's like, I mean, your hair could be there, your fingerprints, but if you weren't there, and just because you're in the car doesn't make you guilty. And then he says, that the undercover mentioned something about 2-0, and Katie doesn't say, oh, Tudo. She doesn't stop him and try to explain that, which again is very telling. While you can't really hear Katie in this audio, it's really more of what she doesn't say than what she does say, right? Like, why doesn't she say, oh, it's Tuto? Blue River. Yeah, look what happened to Sarah Boone. Yeah, little Samsonite didn't work out for her, did it? Taterbug says, I think Charlie is trying to convince himself that he is trying to convince Katie of and practice a run, what she will say when she's arrested. 100% Tater, I agree. He's like, listen, the cops come up, you don't talk. Well, they came up to her and she was in the parking lot shopping and then she pee-peed her pants. Skier, right? Charlie always knows better. Listen to him. Yeah, he thinks so. Crows, that's smart. Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. He's always making a record in case the police are listening. Yeah, because they're all very paranoid. He's thinking, is Katie working with somebody? Or Katie's thinking, is Charlie working with somebody? Well, I don't know if she's thinking that, but Tater says, good thing Rob lives in New York. If he had lived in Florida, they probably would have tried to frame him. And that's true. Good morning, E.S. Murphy. Oh, Patricia Burns. Mansplaining, gaslighting. True. Charlie. He just couldn't help himself. Okay, then this was what Epstein describes as the most incriminating statement made by Charlie during the Dolce Vita. He asked Katie, when everybody was there the next day, did any of you take any money? Wow. All right, listen up. He's about to say, let me ask you a question. When everybody was there the next day, did any of you take any money? It's not like you're driving around in a Bentley, cruising around in a mega yacht, Someone, he must, at some point.
Let me ask you a question. When everybody was there, and you didn't take any money, it's not like you're driving around in a Bentley, cruising around in a mega yacht, That's something he must have had something at some point. Because otherwise you have no idea what to say. Yeah, someone made a call. But formally, obviously, if that was
Okay, so again, how does he know about the money in the next morning? That right there, that is very incriminating. But again, we're talking about Charlie. And Katie's still asking about this undercover. She's like, so wait, this guy was well dressed? Katie's kind of putting some of it together, I think. So then Charlie refers to that he's willing to, quote, help the community. And what Epstein wrote was a seeming reference to either the Latin kings or the crowd Tato and Tuto ran with. Charlie says, but I don't think the community to come back next month. I don't want the community to come back next month. And what I think happens if I pay the money, they're going to be back again and again and again. They've got to make more money. It's not a cop. So I put the Latin Kings logo here. But this is exactly why Charlie Adelson, well, one of the reasons why he was, I believe, a wanted man. Because little Luis Rivera was convicted in this, and they kept throwing the Latin Kings under the bus. So here we go. I'm going to share the Dolce Vita portion where he says this.
my point is, I don't want to that. I don't have a problem helping communities out. I don't want the community to come back and what I think happens is you get money, you can be back again. And again, they gotta make more money. Well, if the guy wants like an industry, not a cop. Take this route. So already addressed it as a cop. As a cop, I'm happy because I got another cop. If he's not a cop,
Charlie then says, we'll take this route. We already addressed it if it's a cop. If it's a cop, I'm happy because I've got nothing to hide. Yeah, Charlie, don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think you actually had a lot to hide and you're nervous. Then he also explains to Katie, but like, I don't think you understand what a big deal this case is. It was on national news. And if we call the police, it's just going to put a spotlight on it. And then the FBI will be all over it. Meanwhile, we all know that the FBI are the ones doing this bump. Good morning. All right, let's see. We had a couple of, hey, Judy, good to see you. Skier says he's too brazen to follow his own advice and keep his mouth shut. Right? You know, I think about that all the time. If he had never said one word, they would have gotten away with it. Tater, he doesn't mind helping the community out. LOL, what does that even mean? Right? Because he refers to it as, I'll make a donation, to charity. But he wants her to send the message that, hey, we're not just going to be a constant, writing a check here. Happy you're here, Judy. Judy says, Charlie was such a pompous twit, always talking like a tough know-it-all. Very, very true. Yeah, exactly, Leanne. Charlie just can't help himself. He sure can't. This is what he's talking about, what a big deal this was on the news. So I'll read this part right before it starts. Right? And you're right. But let me explain something to you. If we go to the police, this is going to put a spotlight on the investigation. The FBI. The FBI. We're talking about a bigwig in the FBI, not like the first year rookie. That's right, Charlie. And they're going to be knocking on your door in a few years.
But let me explain something to you. If we go to the police, this is going to put a spotlight on the FBI, the FBI. And we're not the big FBI, not like the first year rookie. You're going to have a 20-year vet with the FBI knocking at your door, wanting to speak to you and wanting to speak to you. This is a big fucking move that is made not only national news, this is in London. My family in London is calling this. BBC News is broadcasting it.
Charlie, wait, the Adelsons have family in London? I never heard that. Let's see. Excuse me. Charlie says, what I just played, you're going to have a 20-year vet with the FBI knocking at your door, wanting to speak with you and wanting to speak with your attorney. There's so much foreshadowing in this as well, because that's exactly what they did. The FBI knocked at her door. He says, this made not only national news, this was in London. My family in London was calling. You know what the BBC News is? The British Broadcasting News? Oh, Katie and Charlie. Crow says, that's why Wendy avoids Charlie and Donna like the plague. She knew they would run their mouths. Absolutely, 100%. Tater says, yes, it was part of their plan if they got caught. She was going to let them hang themselves with their own tongues. I agree. Judy, yeah. Donna was so stupid that she wrote in that email Leslie obtained, Harvey was the least involved. Oh, God. Which is why they need to arrest him. He's trying to scare Katie and warn her of repercussions. Yes, agree. Here for today says, amazing the recording devices that did this. Yeah, and amazing that they were able to get it cleared up. And we talked about that last week, how the audio couldn't be used because there was a proprietary software within the FBI, but you could only hear it using that, which they couldn't bring into court, and they wouldn't allow it in because it just wasn't admissible in that form. And then this man, McKelveen, goes to Dolce Vita the same time of day, the same day of week, and sets up like 20 microphones to get all the different audio pitches, then matches it and extracts out the audio. Is that crazy? Crow says, my opinion, Wendy set them up as well. They were always meddling, interfering in her life. Tater says, Wendy had some major power over the family except for Rob, didn't she? They're all still willing to die on the hill for her. It blows my mind. Yeah. Very, very true. I just love. Do you know what the BBC is, Katie? Oh, Lord, this family. Okay, and then we couldn't escape this with Charlie. So again, he talks about how he's got all these DICK eggplant emoji pics on his phone. And he's like, I don't want them seeing my phone. I'm not giving them my phone. Which, when Donna's trial was canceled, the 2024 one, there is a point where I think it was Alex, what was his name? Alex Morrison. They're trying to prove they were walled off from knowing anything about Charlie's case. And he goes to the jail in Leon County to meet with Charlie. And the only question Charlie asked him was, do you have my phone? I want my phone. So maybe he was wanting his photos. Okay. All right, now we're going to play this next portion where Charlie says, well, listen, you didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. We'll prove it. The next question is, prove it. He's just all around it. I don't have time. I've got a problem with this. And then he's going to get into the phone.
I'm not going to sit here and show you phones.
If you want to arrest me, effing arrest me, which is the title of this chapter. I'm not going to sit here and show you the photos of all the DICK pictures I took of myself. Don't you know, ladies, have you ever just had a man send you a picture like that? I can honestly say I haven't, but I've had a lot of friends that do. And of course, I'm like, that's disgusting. Let me see the picture.
Myself. Why I can't have my phone? Because I got tons of new photos of myself on my phone. You're not looking to take pictures of myself all day Tuesday. Why don't you come at me more? You can look at all the things you want to me. I'm serious. I don't want them laughing at my pee-pee. The point is myself on my phone.
And what kind of a grown man calls it his pee-pee? He says, why can't you have my phone? Because I've got tons of nude photos of myself on my phone. You're not looking at DICK pictures of myself all day, too. So why don't you come back with a warrant? Okay, thank you, Charlie, we will. So you can look at pictures you want of me. I'm serious. I don't want them laughing at my pee-pee. Is this not just so Charlie? Patricia Burns, I'm surprised he didn't say this is going to be turned into a best-selling film, right? Yes. Yes, Judy did a great reenactment of Donna yesterday reading her emails that she wrote to Rashi and Maricel. So y'all check it out. Patricia Burns, they're going to make this into a Bond film. Wouldn't that be something? Yeah, here for today. Wendy is finally free of the meddlers, especially her mother, Donna, who was so controlling. Judy, yeah. The eggplant, how narcissistic. What man has pics of his own eggplant on his phone? Well, apparently Charlie. Yeah, it is gross. I agree, Jenny. Yes, I don't understand eggplant pictures. Zero interest. Well, and it's just not an attractive body part. I mean, women are more attractive in their things, I mean, that's my opinion. Oh, Judy says someone told her that Charlie actually had a big eggplant. Really? I was thinking micro. Yeah. I am like, let me see it. I'm like, that's terrible. Let me see what they sent. Jenny, calling it your pee-pee doesn't make it any better. Oh, yeah. Don't forget about all those toys in his house. That's right, Tater. Skier says Wendy was the damsel in distress, the ultimate fix for a savior complex. Tater, all narcissists are highly immature emotionally. It's a fact. Yeah, that's a good point. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. But just think, y'all, those are all in the iCloud. So that means like Georgia and all them, they've seen it. So who's going to do that for you? I bet they wouldn't release it. What do y'all think? All right, so we're still in the Dolce Vita. So Epstein's just laying the groundwork because it's such a pivotal piece in Charlie's arrest and in Katie's conviction, and then ultimately Charlie's. So he talks about how he does these separate little comments that Epstein thought were noteworthy. He says that the big problem, don't mess with his parents. Then he refers to Noah, which is hilarious. I'll explain that. Talks about if my parents were guilty, and then refers to Donna's diarrhea. So first, let's talk about his parents. We're going to show that link.
If you are, and you can't do it, have someone else do it. And so help me God, like money times, it will be done. See what I'm saying? I mean, I don't care what I spend today, it's what I got to do. This person knows they feel like they do a little bit. If they
Charlie's all over the place. This person knows, big deal, little, may not know anything.
I think they need everything. What? No.
So you can't hear Katie because she's so soft-spoken. And if you're watching, some of y'all I know are just listening and not watching, but where the agent is, he's a couple tables over, and it's just loud, right? It's got, one of those, looks like a polished concrete floor, and they're bussing tables, and it's all hard surfaces, so it's very echoey. Then Charlie says, right, so he knows I have you on the salary. You'd think he'd be happy to know that.
Right. So he knows I have your salary. You think he'd be happy to know that? You don't have any bad feelings. Our paths never crossed that. I didn't know the two of you would do it together.
So now Charlie's talking about Sigfredo. And he said, this just shows because he's so macho, but he's really cowardly. Just like when the FBI was there, he's like, am I under arrest? Charlie says to Katie, ask him about Sigfredo. He doesn't have any bad feelings towards me, does he? Our paths never crossed. I didn't know that the two of you would be working out. Somebody asked, is there a Cellbrite of Jeff's phone? I don't know if there was a Cellbrite of it, but he did give them everything they wanted to know. And y'all know how Wendy asks every trial about the celebration dinner and Georgia asked Wendy every trial about the celebration dinner. And when was it? And she's like, oh, it was a month, or it might have been more than a month. But see, Jeff spoke to Wendy. The last time they ever spoke, she told him about the celebration dinner. And based on math, he talked to her, it was like 8 to 10 days after the murder. So that means the celebration dinner was before. And there's a reason that George is always asking, because she knows, because they probably can see when that call was that Jeff and Wendy had. It was not a whole freaking month. Jolie, great point. Why were they talking in such a public place? A restaurant, not a walk on the beach or just a walk anywhere. How stupid can you be? Yeah. But Charlie even says, I mean, if people were guilty of something, they wouldn't be in a public place. He's like, I mean, look around this restaurant. There's 5 cameras, but really there were 7. Okay. Then he talks about how, he takes care of everybody. And this made me laugh, this part about the birthday. And I'll explain to you.
You know what I'm saying? Like you know how I am. I will be for things to do. You don't ask me to shit. I'm the one who's like, hey, no, his birthday's coming up. I got you. I'm the one who's like, anything I can, you don't ask.
So Charlie says, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how I am. Like, I look for things to do. You don't ask me for shit. I'm the one that's like, hey, Noah's birthday's coming up. I got you. I remember hearing this. I'm like, who is Noah? He doesn't even know. Katie's son's name is Ethan. It's not even Noah. That made me chuckle. And then here's another line he says. Well, the problem is, if you give into, like, if my mom meets him, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow in front of the building. He just drives up and she hands him 5 G's. What the F do you think is going to happen next month?
Either two, like, if my mom meets him, it's like, oh, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow in front of the building. He just drives up and she hands him 5 G's. What the fuck do you think is going to happen next month? He's going to go, you need your help again. I mean, and the thing is, my parents really were guilty. They made them think they have a big fish on the line, and I love this. All I have to do is scare this little old lady.
Charlie, it's going to be, oh, he needs your help again. You know what I mean? And the thing is, if my parents were really guilty, they may think that they have a big fish on the line that's going to pay them monthly. And all they have to do is scare this little old lady, referring to Donna. Yeah, no, don't think she's a little old lady, but that's a nice try. Chawi. Nice try. Then this was my favorite. Donna's diarrhea.
That breaking news we're following overnight. 2 people have died in a murder.
Yeah, but he didn't want to scare her. He didn't scare her. But just his presence, you understand? His presence, my mom's had diarrhea all night. She hasn't been eating, and she's been up since 2 o'clock in the morning.
Charlie, yeah, but he didn't want to scare her. He didn't scare her, but his presence. You have to understand his presence. My mom had diarrhea all night. She hasn't been eating, and she's been up since 2 o'clock in the morning with diarrhea.
Like, how do you think I feel? My mom's 65 years old, up since 2 in the morning with fucking diarrhea. She what?
Love that. Charlie goes, like, how do you think that feels with my mom, 65 years old and up since 2 in the morning with fucking diarrhea? Classic. Okay, now I'm just going to play the last couple minutes of the Dolce Vita recording. I do think y'all should go back and listen to the whole thing. I'll show you where I have found the best link to it. But what Epstein claims is this was the most damning 41 minutes of evidence for both of them.
Somebody who potentially has the ability to get something like this done, you got a fucking set of balls. Because they may make you shut up real quick. Which makes me think, without a doubt, he's not the only, he didn't come there alone, he came there with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And then this is the next thing, ready? What about, what if this homeboy walks the line? All he does, walks up, and he goes, Middleton, so-and-so's family needs help. Meanwhile, this dude's family ain't getting shit. We just get a bunch of scumbags knocking on my door, going, somebody needs help. Well, guess what? I don't have anything to do with what happened down there. You don't, I don't know anyone who does. I don't know who these people are. Like, I don't know these people. So, my point is, the problem is, once you pay, you're going to get every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry showing up, going, hey, somebody needs help. Go to the fucking police. I don't care. Go to the police. Tell them what you know. I'll tell them what I know. Nothing. I don't. My question. Friends, you don't have any FBI. Not work 5 in the morning. And, you know, this is coming.
I thought that was crazy too. He says, I don't. FBI, 5 in the morning, which is exactly the FBI arrested him just before 5 in the morning, of course, years later, but there's so much foreshadowing in this.
Problem inside. I don't know anybody that's got that bad patient. Just a 5-day show.
And then they walk out, and Charlie puts on his womany sunglasses. He outcrows. Charlie is such a great conversationalist. Yeah. So this is actually on. I had read the transcript before, but I never had heard it this cleared up, I guess, or with all the captions. But this is actually on the Tallahassee Democrat YouTube page, and it's just called Transcript, Secret Recording of Charlie Adelson Released, Led to Arrest in Dan Markel Murder Case. So I definitely recommend if you want to hear it all. Like I said, it's about 41 minutes. All right, now we're on to chapter 28. Whole new ball game. So now we're in the second trial, okay? It's very different this time around because you've got some changes, right? Anna Norris, who was the second chair with Georgia, she's gone on to be a private attorney. So now Sarah Catherine Dugan is on the team. The jury is also different. The last one was 10 women and 2 men. This time it's 6 women, 6 men. Everybody on the jury was under 50 years old. None of the jurors were pregnant. And Judge Wheeler is now the judge, not Hankinson. A little bit about Sarah Catherine Dugan. So she grew up 1 hour north of Talley, so not quite in Georgia. She went to University of Miami for her undergraduate degree and law school at Florida Coastal in Jacksonville. She actually does the opening statement in Katie's trial, and her nickname is either Doogie or SK. So she really focuses a lot on the Dolce Vita details in Katie's openings when she gives the opening statement. So this was in May of 2022. So I'm just going to play a little bit of Sarah Catherine.
Met in person at a restaurant called Dolce Vita. And while they sat at their table in this busy, noisy restaurant, an undercover FBI agent sat at a table nearby. And the agent had a camera, a hidden camera, and recorded the conversation. Their conversation can be very difficult to hear at times. Experts have tried to clarify the recording as much as possible and have succeeded in taking out most of the background noise, but the defendant was speaking very softly and her voice is still extremely difficult to hear. However, Charlie Adelson's voice is deeper, it's lower, it's a little louder, and it can be heard. And in the recording, we hear him discussing with her whether the man who walked up to his mother could be an undercover police officer or someone trying to blackmail them. And if it's a blackmailer, is it just somebody trying to make a quick buck, or is it somebody who knows information? And you'll hear on the recording that Charlie Adelson reassures the defendant that if it's the police, that's a good thing. Charlie Adelson thinks that if it's the police, that means the police don't have enough evidence.
Overruled.
That means the police don't have enough evidence to charge anyone. In fact, Charlie Adelson tells her, if they had any evidence, we would have already gone to the airport. He starts giving her some legal advice. He says, in order to prove someone committed a crime, you have to be able to put the person at the scene at the time the crime was committed, which unfortunately for the defendant and Charlie Adelson is not an accurate statement of the law, as you'll see in the jury instructions. It's important to note that, at the time that this conversation is taking place, no arrests had been made at this point of Garcia, Rivera, or of anyone. The only thing that the police had released to the public at that point was a photo of the Prius that was seen fleeing the scene. And it was the Prius that Garcia and Rivera had rented and used the day of Dan Markel's murder. So the only thing police had ever put out there is a photo of the Prius. Police.
Yeah, Charlie didn't know the law. He didn't understand how that works. Like, you're still going to get convicted. You're still guilty, even if you're not there. Hey, cynical senders, parents treat each child differently. Charlie was the middle child, so likely always seeking his mother's attention, which was all for Wendy. Great point. I definitely say he is classic middle child in my experience. Yeah, here for today says Charlie couldn't compete with Wendy or Rob. Good point. Melissa says Charlie hated Rob because Rob was a good person, had a heart and empathy, something the rest of the family lacked. Great point. Jolie, how would Charlie have known in advance that they had enough evidence, especially to allow him to get to the airport before an arrest? Because he thinks they were the ultimate masterminds, I guess. All right, then we get to Katie's opening so Tara Kawas did the opening in this trial. I believe Chris did that in the last one. No, I think it was Tara. Anyway, she's just, their whole defense is that, hey, we agree with the prosecution. It's Charlie Sigfredo and Luis Rivera. They said that Katie had nothing to do with it. Sigfredo and Charlie did all this on their own. And Katie just has no idea. No idea.
In this case, as you heard her say, to selectively release certain information to the public, all the while listening to Ms. McDonald's phone to see if she would say something that would incriminate her, even a little bit. But with all those recordings, wiretap conversations, hours and hours of surveillance, you will see that every single action she took, every word that came out of her mouth actually proves to you that she had no idea what was going on. The only evidence that the state is going to present to you in this courtroom from that witness stand that has direct evidence that Ms. McDaniel is guilty are the words of the convicted Latin King gang member murderer, Luis Rivera.
Yeah, they say only Luis Rivera names Katie, nobody else. Then she talks about how strange the Adelsons are. So I want to play this.
Another thing you are going to hear over and over again is that Wendy's family has a very strange dynamic. They are very overprotective of her. They are extremely involved in every aspect of her life, including her marriage to Dan Markel.
So Tara, in the first trial, she has said in an interview that she wasn't on the Wendy train thinking, oh, it's Wendy. And then by the second trial, it's a little different.
Blood in his driveway in broad daylight after coming home from the gym. Within hours of this murder, the Tallahassee Police Department already had the name and the motive of the person who was behind this, Charles Adelson. And who gave them their first lead? none other than his sister, Wendy Adelson, when she tells detective, "Oh, yes, my brother made a comment once as a joke that it was cheaper to hire a hitman as a divorce present. I looked into hiring a hitman, but it was cheaper to buy you this TV. This is
So Tara, again, just saying it's all Charlie. And look, TPD already had the name of the person that did this because Wendy named it. She named him. Then she talks about how women are toys to Charlie. Don't y'all know that Donna was cringing?
that's the kind of guy that he was. He also had other toys he liked to play with: a boat, a go-kart, and an endless amount of young, beautiful women for him to manipulate and play with. Because that's what women are to Charles Adelson, just toys. And the one toy that he ended up playing with is Catherine McDonald.
I mean, Tara just the poor victim card for Katie. And then Georgia's like, yeah, look, Katie wasn't forced to do anything. Katie made bad decisions, bad choices. This is my favorite part of Tara's opening.
With the Adelsons, right? Donna, she's probably at home watching TV, probably watching this trial.
Tara looks right at the camera. Donna? Yeah. Yeah, she's probably at home and just looks right at the camera. She's watching this trial. Here for today, I kind of feel sorry for Tara. She went into law with sincere aspirations to help. Yeah, I agree, Angela Grace. So why was Tara visiting Katie in recent months? What is there to discuss? I'm curious too. Ain't no hollaback girl, hello. Without Charlie, Katie would not have been enticed. Dominoes. Exactly. Taterbug, I find it hard to sympathize with any defense attorneys defending guilty people. And I know it's the way our system works, but I don't have to feel sorry for them. Yeah. Judy thinks Tara became like a big sister and a friend to Katie. Yeah. Hey, Catherine Lacoste. Katie is as bad as Sigfredo. Here for today. Tara should be a prosecutor. Yeah, she's been a defense attorney since she got out of law school. I don't think she's ever been a prosecutor. Kristen, hey, Jill. Do we think Harvey is paying for Katie's kids in school? I do not. I don't think so. Then Tara, she never really says, but she's kind of promising they're going to get some star witness. And, they actually transferred Sigfredo to the Leon County Jail in this trial. And he had even been recorded on the phone with Katie before or with someone else saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to be transferred. I'm not going to talk. But he's the one that could have, quote unquote, saved her, right? So they transferred him to Leon County, but we know he doesn't testify. Then Georgia talks about how, look, in 6 years, Sigfredo Garcia never once approached the state attorney office for a deal. And this is a good point. If conspiracy was only between Sigfredo and Charlie, why would Sigfredo have not spoken to protect his wife, Katie, and to allow her to go home to be with the kids instead of her being locked up for 6 years before her trial? And the state's point is the reason Sigfredo never spoke because anything he would give would implicate Katie and not Charlie. Oh, then we talk about Wendy. And this is what Epstein wrote. He talks about how numerous witnesses made encore appearances in this trial. Among them was Wendy Jill Adelson. Oddly, the 43-year-old former clinical law professor strolled into the courtroom, flanked by 2 seasoned lawyers this time, in the very same heather gray dress and black blazer she'd worn at the first trial. Though she was seemingly trying to make some sort of statement with her choice of attire, her intended message wasn't entirely clear. He says, while her outfit may have been precisely the same, the circumstances couldn't have been more different this time around. In the fall of 2019, the Adelson family seemed to be untouchable. But now, as Wendy was swearing to tell the truth a second time, her brother was behind bars, sporting an orange and white striped jumpsuit. I thought the same thing because she's so, what's the word, feisty, I guess, in this trial. Lots of little quippy remarks because she's upset, right? And he also says Donna Adelson had to be on pins and needles every time she heard a knock on the door, wondering how soon she'd be the next domino to fall. Then we'll show a couple clips from the arrest. So she talks about how terrified and how she's done nothing but helped without an attorney present. She was there for 6 hours. And then he also talks about her different Trescott Drive answer this time around.
All right. Were you involved in the plot to kill your husband?
Absolutely not.
Did you have knowledge of the plot to kill your husband?
No.
But you suspected that your family was involved.
No, I did not suspect that my family was involved.
Did you mention in your interview with law enforcement that you suspected that your family could be behind this?
I think I speculated about lots of things during the 6 hours I spent with law enforcement without an attorney present trying to help them solve this murder. Yes, I said all kinds of things.
All right. And one of the things you said was that your family very much disliked him and that you thought it was possible that someone had done this on your behalf, unbeknownst to you.
I did say I thought someone might have done this on my behalf. Yes.
And who did your brother know that had connections that could get something like that done?
I have no idea.
Do you know Catherine Magbanua?
I have met Catherine Magbanua twice, as I
And-
mentioned.
She was your brother Charlie's girlfriend at the time of this murder, wasn't she?
I believe
Objection,
so.
asked and
There
answered.
may have been other girlfriends
Overruled.
here at the time.
Wait a second. Okay, now answer the question.
Specifically at the time of the murder, Catherine Magbanua was your brother's girlfriend at that time, correct?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. VS, I saw your comment that my mic is louder. These audio things like that Dolce Vita, it's just not great. And in the trials, it's not great. This true crime and law stream on this one was kind of cleaned up. I apologize for the volume discrepancy, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Then we'll see what she does this time about Trescott. So what Epstein remarks about it, he says, Wendy corrected the most glaring misstatement she made at the first trial. The first trial, she said she saw the crime scene tape from Centerville Road as she passed by Trescott and never turned onto her former street. This time, she agreed she had, though denied suspecting that anything significant had occurred that morning. She told jurors that she made a 3-point turn once she saw the crime scene tape because she figured an electrical storm had caused a problem. It was a clear, sunny day.
And then I had a few errands to run before I met them. So I did that. I picked up gas. I picked up something I needed for a party that night. And then I went to meet my friends for lunch.
All right. And do you know what time you left the residence that day?
I don't. I guess it's somewhere around noon.
And then went and ran your errands? On the way to run your errands, did you go by the crime scene?
No.
On the way to run your errands, did you encounter a roadblock on Trescott?
I did.
All right, so you did turn off of Centerville onto Trescott.
I did.
All right, and when you encountered a roadblock, what did you assume the problem was there?
I figured it was just an electrical storm or something. There was some tape, and it looked like the road was blocked off. And so I just turned around and went back and went up Benton.
And had there been an electrical storm that morning?
I didn't remember an electrical storm, but in the summertime, there's always trees falling and rainstorms. So
Oh, I love it when she starts her hand jiving too. That's how you know she's nervous when she's using her hands. Hey, Jason Broderick. Welcome and happy that you're a member. Good to see you. Now, this is all of our favorite, Chris DeCoste, and it was hard to pick, but these are some of the ones that Epstein highlights. So I thought I would share those. And I hope Michelle Mathis at some point gets to see this because these are all her favorite. It's all about you.
Here. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Adelson, this is all about you, isn't it?
excuse me?
This is all about you, right?
I was called to be a witness and I'm testifying. So I don't understand the question. Is it a question?
There's about 100 people in this courtroom, right?
There are people in the courtroom.
Possibly thousands watching, right?
I have no idea who's watching.
And it's all because of your failed marriage, right?
I disagree with that.
You disagree that your ex-husband is dead because of your family.
Yes, I disagree.
These jurors are here for weeks doing their civic duty because of your marriage, right?
No,
Katie's going through this ordeal because of that marriage, right?
no,
Dan Markel's parents are going through absolute misery because of your failed marriage. Isn't that right?
no, that's incorrect.
Well, let's talk about the marriage.
Gotta love Chris. Then she starts getting in the little jabs, and Epstein notes this too, that she just can't help herself.
Those boys were his world, right?
As well as his work, yes.
Why did she have to say that? As well as his work. Yes. I don't think that would sit well with them watching this. And great point here, Kristen Hey Jill says, Ben is 17. This is the year that college applications are due with his personal statement. August to November 2026. Just saying. Good point. Then he asks, can you think of one person in this world?
To him.
Can you think of one person in this world that would actually hire two people to go kill Professor Markel other than your family?
No.
Ms. Adelson, please answer. Please
I'd
address
love
me and
to.
answer
It's
the
just it
question.
calls for an unbelievable amount of speculation.
In Epstein notes, he said, and Georgia Kappelman was not going to object. She just let him go at it.
I mean, I'm responsible for coming up with, that's the prosecutor's duty, no, to figure out who's responsible.
You just said a moment ago that you disagree that hitmen killed Professor Markel. That's what you said, right? So my question to you is, if you're able to say, well, it wasn't hitmen, then who? Tell this jury, who on this planet would have wanted to kill Professor Markel?
I have no idea.
All right, let's get into that a little bit. But I want to make sure.
I love it when he goes, let's get into that. And then he says, you realize that your brother did this?
They loved.
Then why won't you look at the stuff?
I've been advised not to.
Are you afraid that when you look at it, you're going to realize that your brother did this?
I am not afraid of that.
Now, of course, you've, and we won't get into privileged communications, but you've spoken to your lawyer about the case.
She's not afraid about her brother, but meanwhile, he's in jail. I like it too. And she's like, I spoke to the police for 6 hours. This was something else. She's trying to play victim, and that's something Epstein notes as well.
That's out there.
You don't realize that you could be helpful in finally untangling this to give this jury the truth about what happened to Professor Markel?
I have been nothing but helpful since this started.
To what happened to their son? By you looking at it, you are at the center of all this, but you won't look at anything to help in the process.
I've done nothing but help in this process.
You came here and testified.
I came here and testified I
You
spoke to
had
the
to
police
be-
for 6 hours without anyone present. I signed over my cell phone, my car, my house, everything, my computer. What else do I have or know that you haven't seen?
You came here because you were subpoenaed and had no choice,
Correct.
right?
This is not fun. I
You've
would not
been-
do this by choice.
You've been inconvenienced.
I've not been inconvenienced.
Professor Markel was shot in the head.
I'm not complaining about being here. This is my duty. I'm here.
We'll get back to you complaining about being here. Do you honestly expect this jury to believe that you haven't confronted your brother about all of this?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you did confront him,
Yes, I do expect them to believe that I did not confront my brother because I didn't.
or maybe you don't need to be.
So we're supposed to believe she never confronted Charlie. There was a point when they were not speaking, and I would love to know what that was about. This is one of my favorites when he says, "But you let the kids hang out with your murderous brother."
Becomes a man. Did you invite Dan Markel's parents, the kids' grandparents?
I did.
You invited them.
I invited them, yes.
When was the last time they saw face to face their grandchildren?
April 20th,
Of this year?
just now.
And you agree with me that it had been years since 2016, since the last time they had seen them.
The visit stopped when they threatened to put my children in foster care, yes. But up until that point, they did have visits.
But you got no problem letting them see your brother Charles, right?
I'm sorry?
You have no problem letting them hang out with your brother Charles, who's now sitting in custody for first-degree murder.
Oh, they can't see him now, can they?
No, they can't, but I'll ask the questions. For years, they weren't able to see their grandchildren despite their pleading to you to see them. But you let them, let me finish, but you let them hang out with your murdering brother, right?
The children were permitted to see their grandparents. I cooked for them. We had play dates. They had sleepovers. When a letter surfaced that they were trying to have my children placed in foster care, the visits stopped. My brother never threatened to put my children in foster care, and if he had, the visits would have stopped with him too.
You say you love your boys.
I do say I love my children.
Don't care about the father that they love. What
I
happened?
never said that I don't care about the father that they
Then look
love.
at some of the discovery and help figure it out.
Excuse me?
Then look at some of the evidence and help figure it out so that more lives aren't ruined by this.
I seem to not
Mr.
understand.
DeCosta, you need to ask a question now. You're making statements now. You need to ask a question.
Understood, Your Honor. If I could have one brief second to check with co-counsel.
So feisty, the nostrils are flaring. Hey, ain't no hollaback girl, you asked, Leslie, did you know convicted murderer Pamela Smart graduated from FSU? I did not. Michelle, you joined just at the perfect time. Hey, everyone, I'll be listening only, getting ready to go out of town. Oh, good. You're going to enjoy this section for sure. Okay, then we had Luis Rivera testify. Now I've got a lion on the screen. And we've heard recently that Georgia has said she's not a fan of him. And he's just so inconsistent, right? You never know. So he gave a different answer about what he posted on Instagram.
There's a picture of an owl.
I took a picture of, I think it was a lion.
I didn't do nothing. I was throwing throw a picture of the owl, like I told you. Posted on Instagram.
He saw an owl, a bird, I don't know what kind, it sounded like a barred owl maybe, that landed in the parking lot at the hotel and
Took a picture of it.
scared him.
And what happened after you took a picture? What you did?
I took a picture and put it on Instagram.
And then what happened?
Kennedy called stupid. Tell him to take that shit down. If he's stupid or what. So, I'm like, well, I took it down. I don't know if I took it down right away, but I took it down. So she like, why would he do that? He can't tell nobody what is that. And in my mind, y'all be talking on the phone all fucking day. What the fuck you worry about me putting the picture on Instagram? But yeah, I put it on Instagram. She called them and told him to take it down. So I took it down. That's it. We just hung out all night. The next morning we left.
The night before the murder, Rivera will tell you that he took a picture of an owl and posted it on Instagram. which, as y'all may know, indicates where you are when you post something. And he'll tell you that Catherine Magbanua immediately called Garcia to tell Rivera how stupid he was and to take the picture down because nobody could know where he was. Did you post a picture on Instagram while y'all were in Tallahassee on that second trip?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell the jury about that?
There's a picture of an owl.
An owl, like the bird?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that a photograph that you took here in Tallahassee?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What happened after you posted this picture of an owl on Instagram?
Garcia came and told me, you need to take that shit down. Just like that.
Garcia told you that?
Yes, ma'am.
And who told him that?
I believe Katie.
You believe Katie or you know Katie?
It's Katie. It's her.
Okay. So did Garcia get a phone call about the Instagram photo that you posted?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you present when he received that phone call?
I was outside. He came outside and told me.
He came outside and told you to take it down?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have Instagram at the time this murder happened?
Yes.
And was there an issue with you posting something on Instagram?
Yes.
Was that the first trip or the second trip? If you remember.
I don't remember. But
All
I
right.
remember taking a picture and I had an issue with it.
All right, well, just tell us what you remember about it.
I took a picture of, I think it was a lion. And I remember Garcia getting a phone call. They tell me to take that down. That's too much evidence where we was at.
All right, say that again.
I remember Garcia telling me to take that picture down. That's too much evidence where we was at. Katie called Garcia and told him, hey, you need to take that picture down ASAP.
Okay, why would it be a problem for you to be posting a picture from
So
Tallahassee?
we came out here to do a job.
Okay, so there could be data associated with where you took the picture.
Yes, ma'am. There's a picture of an owl. I took a picture of, I think it was a lion.
So what do y'all think why he did that? I think that was on purpose. It's interesting. In the proffer, he says owl, and then he said owl in 19. But then in Katie's trial, he's like a lion, which is also Latin Kings. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I felt like it was a message to Katie because he really names Katie and implicates her a lot. He says in this trial, Katie been involved the whole time, dog. She's involved. She's the mastermind. She was in the middle of this. I gave them the truth, bro. I'm not going to go back and forth with you, man. I gave them the truth. It was Katie and Garcia. It was all three of us involved. That's the truth, man. That's what he says to DeCoste when he's questioning him. But I love it. Georgia's like, so what? I mean, she was not prepared to hear lion. If you notice, they don't ask him again about the picture in the following trials. Ain't no how about girl. Doesn't she have to remain current with the bar in order to practice law? Has she been practicing? Don't know if she's, I don't know what she's doing, but her license is still current in Florida. Well, Jason, happy birthday tomorrow. I'm happy you'll have this to listen to. Cynical Cinders. Hey, Georgia isn't avoiding prosecuting the Adelson. She has to do it right so it isn't overturned. Yeah. Beach chillin', I agree. This right here is proof. Magbanua continues to lie. She keeps denying she knew Lewis was involved. Right? Y'all are so right. Catherine. He is letting us know he got the picture from Google. He's so street smart. Hey, Peachy Keen. Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lewis, he definitely has some, what's the word? Inconsistencies, but there are some steadfast facts. The gas line was shot out. Who was involved? I mean, his timelines and things get fuzzy, but he knows it was Katie and Sigfredo with him. Beach chillin', lion is included in Latin King's imagery. Exactly. Peachy King, thanks for the jewels. Yeah, I felt like it was kind of a message to Katie. Because see, Lewis is pissed that Katie knows all these intricate details, and she's been taking the money, right? She's been taking money off the top. All right, now let's get to some other witnesses that were a little different this trial. So we got to hear from Ramsey Neighbor, I'm probably mispronouncing that. He owned the Club Fate, and I just love that he comes in with his shirt unbuttoned and his necklace, his suntan, and his sunglasses on his head. But they're trying to prove, right, that Katie wasn't making all these cash tips, and he was a good witness for the state.
And you said that you would do the cash outs at the time, or was your club at the time, most of the sales were cash or credit card?
Club Fate was 90%, I would say, credit cards versus cash. And the employees literally were carrying their own banks, so they will cash out the guest if there's cash involved, and they cash out at the end of the night with me, with surrendering how many credit cards and how many cash vouchers they had, and they cashed out at the end of the night. But 90% of the sales were credit cards.
Okay. So if 90% of the sales are credit cards, the servers, the bartenders, they're going to come cash out with you at the end of the night. You'll see how much they're owed
Correct.
of their tips from their credit card sales, right? Okay.
Correct.
And then were they paid that through a paycheck?
They got their credit cards on their paycheck, and whatever cash tips they received, they kept that night.
Okay. And a lot of times people don't tell you how much cash that they received.
No,
right?
unfortunately, this business is just like that's the way it is.
Right.
Okay, so he was a good witness for the state because McBanoa's attorneys were trying to argue that Katie had that spike in cash following the murder because she was making all these tips at the nightclubs. However, he just said that, 90% of the patrons paid with credit cards, and they weren't actually employees of the club. The girls weren't. They were employed by the promotion companies of the liquors. Then we also had Jessica Rodriguez, who was the baby mama of Luis Rivera. She testified. I'm not going to show that. They don't show her. They show her shoes. She's got like acrylic heels on. Then it was interesting. So Yendra Mascaro testified, and she was the friend of Katie's who babysat Katie's children the night of July 18th, the night Dan was shot. And it was kind of, Katie calls her and says, "Can you watch them?" And while she was testifying on the stand, she remembered that it was definitely July 18th because, of course, Katie has no recollection of the date. And Yendra had made a post on Instagram. I mean, there's a lot of Instagram in this, showing the kids spending over the night at her house. And so they had her get it at the break.
During the break, did you have an opportunity to look at your Instagram you told us about on Redirect to see if it refreshed your recollection about the date that Catherine McBanoa's children spent the night with you in July of 2014?
Yes.
Okay, and what date was that?
July 18th, 2014.
That was the night they spent the night with you?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next day would have been the day that she made the statement to you that his brother-in-law had been in a car accident?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
All right. Do you want any recap?
Yeah. So then Katie says, "Oh yeah, Charlie's brother-in-law was was in a car wreck." Wendy Jones says, "Lion might be the animal that pops in his head because he's a Latin king," right? Could be. Yeah, Crows. The guy, he looks very Miami, doesn't he? Cynical says, no reputable law firm will hire Wendy, so she had to get her own business, Found in Sunbiz. Yeah. Leanne, Lewis's brain is fried. Don't think his mix-up has any kind of sign except a sign of brain damage. Yeah. Crows, I can't believe he's wearing his sunglasses on his head. I know, it's so funny. I know, Jason. We got to figure out a way to get Chawi to talk. That's the key to breaking this, in my opinion. Loose lips sink ships. Cynical. Speaking of sunglasses, did you see the lady with the cool sunshades during Donna's trial? I don't know how Georgia looked into the gallery and did not laugh out loud. Yeah, I saw them. They were like snow ski kind of goggles. I think it was Rebecca Ross that said, because she was there, that the lady has like a sensitivity to those lights, those fluorescent lights, which I always hate those too. Yeah, weird is our normal, you said? That's funny. All right. So then they're all wondering, is Tuto going to testify? Because again, they had him transferred. He's there in the Leon County Jail. And so Georgia was prepared. She had prepped. She was ready to go. And then he didn't. We also heard from Sherry Bennett. I'm not going to go into all that. She just went into the money drop details. She had interviewed Jessica Rodriguez because it was at her apartment. Then Jason Newland testified. And I've always wondered this about Lewis' Instagram post. I'm like, well, surely they can get the metadata. I mean, I know he deleted it, but doesn't it do a timestamp? But apparently, according to Jason Newland, that it's only 7 days. So if you post something on Instagram and then you delete it after 7 days, like I guess there's not a record of it. So that's why we don't have the data. I always figured we did. Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about Charlie being paranoid. And also then Katie McVanowa, she testifies again. And she was awful in her first trial. And I think it was just as bad this one. Of course, Tara's just pointing that Katie had really bad memory. She said COVID 2 times. She's been 6 years in jail and she just doesn't remember anything. And she testifies horribly. So I just pulled a few clips. And one is when Sarah Catherine got to do the cross examination on Katie and Epstein states because Georgia had prepared so much for Sigfredo that she couldn't prepare for Katie, and Sarah Catherine does a great job. So she asked her about the club fate, because we already know from what this guy has said, the club owner, they weren't making that kind of money that she claims.
Her name and Tuto's name to my mom. What's up?
Yeah.
You were involved in that. Would you have freaked out?
Of course.
Would you have agreed to call someone who could have potentially been the FBI?
Yes.
You would have if you were involved?
Oh, no.
If you were involved, you'd
out.
probably say, don't ask me to do that.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Exactly. And he kept pushing for me to do it. That's the part that I don't quite understand.
So clearly I linked the wrong thing, but
He kept telling me.
And he kept saying,
When you were with Charlie Adelson, you were sleeping with both Charlie Adelson and Garcia at the same time, right?
I mean,
They weren't aware of each other. I mean, they knew of each other, but they didn't know you were with both of them at the same time, right?
not that I mean, it might have overlapped, but I don't remember that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember if it was
Charlie
same
Adelson
time.
didn't know that there was any overlap.
that he didn't know. I don't know what he knew.
Okay, well, he told you, we didn't have any overlap.
Oh, with the from the video.
Right. And you tried to keep them separate. That was something that you did when you were with Charlie, right? You tried to keep Garcia separate from him.
Well, I didn't think they'd like each other.
Right. Garcia was jealous of Charlie.
I believe so.
oh, I just think she is just one of the worst witnesses I've ever seen. Kristen Hagel thinks Harvey gives Wendy money. Cynical Cinders. Wendy's reputable employment was only through connections and none lasted long. Crows and Gallows. I wonder if Tova is still drinking the Wendy Kool-Aid. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Yeah, they played the train car strategy. Yeah. Okay. And then Tara's redirect. She asks about the Dolce Vita.
This new audio.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I stated, that everything in my testimony is consistent with everything that was on the video that they just enhanced.
Now let's get to that about just enhanced, right? You were set for trial in February of 2022, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Valentine's Day, you were supposed to go to trial.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the state provided us with this magic, well, this new enhancement,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And we actually agreed to reset your case
Yes, ma'am.
so that we could all get the enhancement.
Yes, ma'am.
Because as far as we're concerned, it would only contain evidence to
It's
exculpate
on
you.
it. Yeah, exactly.
If you thought that there would be anything on there that would prove your guilt, you would have gone to trial in February.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have even given them an opportunity if you thought anything on that video
Yes, ma'am.
would have come up against you.
Yes, ma'am.
And as we sit here and listen to this video, this covert undercover thing that they did, do you hear any direct evidence in there of something to do with the homicide?
That's why I stated that I've never heard Dan Markel's name. I never heard homicide. I never heard murder. I never heard Tallahassee. Nothing. And I'm telling you that he is going on and on about different scenarios.
Like one of the clips that she played where
Wasn't there a statement that she showed people her new breasts and was like, these are from the professor in Tallahassee? Renita says, hey, in 2019, Wendy was booted from a speaking event that she was invited to by Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley because the Justice for Dan movement advocated that she separates families in her life. Oh, how wild. Jolie, I wonder if Wendy has married George so he can't be forced to testify against her. I know she is using a different name, but has Jill Estrada been verified? I know we have all wondered, but I don't think there's been any proof either way. Peachy King, trivia. In Hebrew, Tova means goodness. Ooh. Hey, 850, I think she also married him. So if and when she gets arrested, he can take care of the boys. Yeah, they'll be 18 probably, or 20 or 30 at this point. Cynical Cinders, Tova is no goddess or goodness. Here for today, not necessarily marriage license. And plus, we don't know what state. I mean, they could have gotten married in any state. But I have not seen any kind of a marriage license. Sally says, I think marriage licenses are public information. So if she married him, I think we would know. Katie, less is more, right? See, when her attorneys are questioning her, they keep it simple because she's a terrible, terrible witness. Okay. Now, now we're in chapter 30, which is the last one. Game, set, match. And this is the closing. So what I did for y'all, you can just be thankful. So it was between Georgia's closing, both her closing and rebuttal, and then Tara Kawas. It was well over 3.5 hours. I went through and I condensed it into a 28-minute video. I'm going to play it at 1.25, so it'll be shorter than that, just over 20. But he just goes through and explains all these different points that they make, Epstein does. And I just thought, you know what? Instead of just reading them, I think we all like to see videos better. And by the way, I made the background red on this week's book club because this is when Georgia started wearing her red closing suit. The first trial, she did not wear red. And then ever since, she has worn red. So fun fact.
This is Dan Markel. Dan Markel is the only victim in this case. This is what he looked like before this defendant sent her friends up to see him. And this is what he looked like afterwards. The evidence has shown that on July 18th, 2014, this community suffered a tragic blow when this revered law professor, colleague, son, father, brother, and friend was gunned down in broad daylight in his own home. And what enemies had Dan Markel made that set his brutal fate into motion? His own family. And what offense had Mr. Markel committed against these people? Refusing to let his children be taken away from him? Objecting to them disparaging him to his kids? What was the motive for this heinous murder? The motive is clear. It's undisputed that the divorce between Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel was a particularly nasty one. Wendy Adelson viewed herself as stuck in Tallahassee. She also suggested that she and Harvey Adelson and Charlie Adelson would chip in on $1 million bribe to buy Markel's agreement to this move. What a bargain they ended up getting to solve this problem for only $100,000. The players in this case are very smart. The crime in this case was given a lot of thought and preparation. We know that the seed was planted for this thing almost a year or more before it came to fruition. They thought of everything: a clever TV-related alibi for Wendy, a frame job for Lacoste, bullet bourbon, and they insulated themselves by hiring this defendant as a middleman between them, the ones that wanted it done, and the shooters. Everyone on the board in this case had some limits to their knowledge. And that was really smart. That made this case much harder to break. But don't let the way that they thought they would get away with this case be the way they get away with this case.
I love that quote by Georgia. She said that in, I think she said it in Charlie's and in Donna's. Don't let the way they thought they would get away with this case be the way they get away with this case.
Talk about Luis Rivera. The defense seeks to discredit his testimony as an extremely bad dude, this as a felon and a gang member, and those are things. But please consider that his resume as a bad guy is precisely why he was selected. I did not hire him to be a part of this case. I didn't have if I had a choice. That was done by this defendant. This defendant and her husband selected Luis Rivera to be a part of this gruesome job. Rivera's not my friend from childhood. He's not the guy that my husband spends all his time with. He's not the person that I hired to do a murder. Rivera is here because he was willing to cooperate, willing to cut a sweet deal to tell the truth. He had one job: tell the truth. That's all he has to do. You know, he was chosen not only because he's got the right credentials with his gang status and his felon status, and you know, he's also trusted. He is a lifelong friend of Sigfredo Garcia, and they didn't think he would roll. His gang status comes with a code of silence that made him more attractive as a candidate to do this murder with Sigfredo Garcia. The Prius also pings at her residence at 10:25 p.m. on July 15th. All right, so let's go to our July trip. Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera traveled to Tallahassee on July 16th. Although this trip was only about 36 hours from the time they left Miami to the time they returned to Miami, there were 22 phone events between Garcia and the defendant in that time frame. And on July 17th, the defendant also says, you have to get it done tomorrow. You have to get it done because he's going to be leaving town. As we know, Dan Markel was scheduled to fly to New York City on July 19th to visit his girlfriend. It's hard to imagine how Rivera could have been in possession of this piece of information if the info had not flowed, as we see repeatedly in our communication records from Charlie to Katie.
Yes, how did he know that he was going out of town? How did he know?
To Garcia to Rivera. But if you look at the slides for the July trip communication, there is a call from this defendant to Luis Rivera at 11:40 p.m. Again, this is unusual because this is only the second time of anywhere in the records where we see her attempting to call Luis Rivera. The first phone call either Sigfredo Garcia or Luis Rivera make after completing this murder for hire is Catherine Magdanoa. Sigfredo Garcia calls the defendant and says it's done. Defendant says, I know. We don't know how she knew. Maybe they had their phones off and then all of a sudden they called, and when she saw it ring, she knew, oh, it's got to be them telling me it's done. Maybe somebody gave her information before they called that it was done. We do not have that piece of information in the evidence. Charlie Adelson says if they had any evidence, we'd already be at the airport by now. Even if they bug your phone, you're still not talking about any of this. What else would she have not been talking about other than the murder of Dan Markel? Because she's involved. I mean, there's no other explanation. There's only one context. The alternate context is, I don't know anything. Can't offer any context. Can't tell you what I was thinking. Can't tell you why I did what I did. Because I have no memory of doing it, no memory of saying it, no memory of being there. Then they talk about Garcia. He doesn't have any bad feelings toward me, does he? Our paths never crossed. He's making sure everything is kosher with Garcia to get this thing resolved. There's more evidence here that Charlie doesn't have an independent relationship with Garcia because he's going through her. He's checking with her to see if Garcia has any bad feelings toward him. Quote, I don't have to sit here and tell you what I would do. I show you what I could do. You know what I'm saying? You know how I am. I look for things to do. You don't ask me for shit. I'm the one that's like, hey, someone's birthday's coming up. I got you. I'm the one who's like, I'll sell you the Lexus for a very good price. The defendant in this case is charged with conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation to commit murder, and first-degree murder as a principal. Why all three charges? The defendant didn't just ask Sigfredo Garcia to do this and pay for it. That would be solicitation. She didn't just take Charlie Adelson's family problem and turn it into action. That would be conspiracy. She got the thing done. Dan Markel is dead. When you think about how this case was proven, we started at a single point, the crime scene, and we went in two totally different directions. We chased a Prius and we chased the bad blood with the in-laws. All these little breadcrumbs led to the same place. The Prius led to Garcia and Rivera. The bad blood led to the Adelsons, and both trails lead to this. There can be a part in how the shot is fired. Garcia was the bullet. Charlie Adelson was the finger wrapped around the trigger. The defendant was the gun. Without every piece, without every function, without every part of it, you don't have the end result. One, if she intended that the murder be done and she did some act or said some word that caused or helped another to commit the crime, then she's guilty of first-degree murder. Or two, if she intended the murder be done and she promised payment in exchange for the murder and the crime was committed by another person, then she's guilty of first-degree murder. So there's two ways. It can be either or both. In this case, I would suggest it's both. And he put her on the payroll. The defendant told us when her attorney was asking her questions that the defendant had ghosted her prior to putting her on the payroll. If he ghosted her after the murder in August of 2014, why would he want her to become his personal assistant? She could not answer that question. When asked, what do you do as his personal assistant? She could not answer that question. These are easy questions, folks. What was your job? You heard she was previously questioned in 2019. You heard about this jail interview where the defense invited my team to come ask her anything we wanted. And you saw Ms. Dugan do her damnedest to ask questions. And it's like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall.
That is my new favorite Georgia quote for right now. It's like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. Talking to Katie. Is that not just amazing?
You're not going to get answers. In opening statement, the defense told us that they would offer definitive proof. Do we have the next slide, please? That there was a link between Garcia and Catherine Magbanua that did not involve this defendant. And now you have seen all of the evidence in this case and heard the testimony of the witnesses, including this defendant. And we are no closer to proving the defense's theory than we were in opening statement. What is the smoking gun? What happens when we plant information in the hands of Donna Adelson? She goes boom, 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 right down the line. She is right.
Boom, boom, boom. That's right. Right down the line.
Right in the middle of it, as she acknowledged. I know how it looks. I know I'm right in the middle of it. But she's not there because she was manipulated by others. She's there because of the choices that she made. I've been straining my pea brain trying to figure out why the defense, who agrees wholeheartedly that Sigfredo Garcia did this murder, has worked so hard to suggest that he wasn't on that June trip with Luis Rivera. Talked him down and they decided not to do that and went on their way. There was no confrontation. Lacoste hung out with Charlie later in the hot tub that night and there was no mention of it. The defendant even told you herself that there was no confrontation other than the jet ski incident that occurred on July 1st. If that happens on or about March 11th at the dinner meeting, then it doesn't make sense that he would make this deal with Charlie, go to Tallahassee in June to stalk and or kill, and then July 1st not know how to get in touch with Charlie Adelson. So that's the problem. Like, doesn't make sense. He's looking for Charlie Adelson. He doesn't know how to get in touch with him. If he had this confrontation that resulted in a pact to do a murder in March, then he would already have Charlie Adelson's information, be able to call Charlie Adelson and confront him after the jet ski incident, wouldn't need to accidentally leave a voice message for Harvey. The evidence is consistent with Garcia traveling to Tallahassee. Remember, he's the one that rented the car. That car pinged in Tallahassee. And I would even take this analysis a step further and suggest that the fact that Garcia is trying to confront Charlie on July 1st, which is after that June trip, is evidence that he is walled off from Charlie in reference to this conspiracy. I don't think he's going to be trying to fight the guy that he's in the process of trying to do a murder for. Of how completely clueless she acted on the stand yesterday, the evidence shows that this defendant was not the pawn in someone else's scheme. She was not the pawn of two master manipulators. She herself was the stage manager in this thing. You should use your common sense in deciding based on the evidence and the law that the judge gives you. We are all trusting you to render a wise and legal verdict in this case, and I trust that that verdict will be guilty as charged. Thank you.
At the beginning of this case, I told you that there would be only one question that you would have to answer at the close of all the evidence. Did the state prove to you beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt that Catherine McBanwell knew about and helped commit the murder of Dan Markel? So let's start at the beginning, because you have to start at the beginning to understand what happened here and how an innocent woman ended up having to fight for her life for something that she did not do. This, members of the jury, is an anatomy of a wrongful prosecution. Now, do not get me wrong, the investigation that was
Tara is quite animated. This is a wrongful prosecution.
initially done by the Tallahassee Police Department led them directly to Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. They also already had their main suspects, the Adelson family, more specifically, Donna and Charlie. The responsibility to make sure that they remain objective and investigate everything, because it is more important. One of their jobs is to protect Ms. McBanwell, to ensure that innocent people are not convicted for crimes that they did not commit. And they failed Catherine at every single stage of this proceeding. Now, the state wants you to believe that there was no direct link between Sigfredo Garcia and the Adelsons. They say that they have no evidence of this. But as you saw here in this courtroom, throughout the course of this trial, that is completely false. It was the call from Sigfredo Garcia directly to the Adelson family that cracked the case open for them. Literally, the reason they were able to find Garcia is because of the call he made to the Adelsons. They may get up here and try to diminish its importance because it goes directly against their theory. Oh, it's just one call. It's a call. It's there. That's the link. This is where I need you to just apply your common sense. They actually want you to believe.
Tara thinks this one call just means it was all without Katie. The one call.
That Charles Adelson, a brilliant master manipulator, that's how their witnesses described him, decided to ask the girl he was dating for a few months if she could get someone, her ex-boyfriend, to kill a man she never met. That is their theory. It's all there. You remember what Ryan Fitzpatrick told you. He's brilliant. He would never use his phone, as would anybody else with any common sense, to orchestrate a murder. This is someone who Charlie knew for years. This is the one witness that could come in here besides Wendy Adelson, because you can just discredit every single thing that came out of Wendy Adelson's mouth. But Ryan Fitzpatrick came here and told you who the real Charles Adelson is. Let's talk about the call detail records. Sergeant Corbett. I know everybody remembers Sergeant Corbett. You have to love Sergeant Corbett because he is the epitome of an unbiased witness. His job is to interpret records. And even he told you, even though it's not good for their theory, he cannot tell you. He even told you that the communications that they presented to you, they're not complete. We don't have everything. We can only go off of what is in the call detail records, right? Why is it that the state, who has the job of proving the case beyond all reasonable doubt, the job to show you all of the evidence, is taking out all the other calls from the records and only creating charts that have the names of the people that they believed were involved? That would make anybody look guilty. There are these numbers on Catherine's phone records when they present it to you. You notice when they start putting up, oh, look, these are the calls from the June 2nd date. There are all these numbers there that are unaccounted for. They are the Tallahassee Police Department and the FBI. They told you that all they have to do is send a subpoena and poof, they get the information. They didn't do that. But the only names that they take out of her contact list, Luis, Sigfredo, and Jessica, the people that helped their case. They didn't even look or try to figure out who are the other people that she was communicating with. We know they can do it. They did it for Wendy's call detail records. Look at the day of the murder. Her list comes up and every single number has a name associated. So you know they can do it. We specifically talked in jury selection about how important it is to investigate each and every lead objectively. And what excuse did you get from the detectives in this case? Both Detective Isom and Agent Sanford with the FBI? Well, I didn't think it was relevant. This is what the state is trying to do. Filter out all the facts that do not fit their theory and then only present you with what they believe is important. Sergeant Corbett looked at you and told you, I cannot tell you that these cell phone tower pings prove that Catherine McDaniel was at a certain location. All he could testify to, well, it's consistent with her being in the area where the tower is located. Every piece of circumstantial evidence in this case is consistent with Miss McDaniel having zero idea or any involvement in Dan Markel's murder. Let's start with the Lexus. A 160,000 mile 2001 Lexus that he sold to her. Now the state wants you to ignore all the evidence that says she bought for it and that she paid it. They have zero evidence that says it was a gift. They'll never find out that I'm paying Katie for this murder by putting her on the payroll. Common sense alone tells you, members of the jury, that that was not payment for a murder. Yindra told you exactly why Katie asked to be put on the payroll. There is text messages from the iCloud account corresponding exactly to the day when it is that she asked to be put on the payroll. Because that seems to be what the theme is in this investigation, turning a blind eye because I don't think it's relevant. They conspired, and the only one of them that's in jail is Charles Adelson for the past month, like they just did. Wendy Adelson, they actually brought her in here, members of the jury, and gave her immunity. You saw that horrible performance that she put on that witness stand. I mean, the fact alone that she even got up here and in her own way tried to play herself like she was a victim. She's there throwing in little jabs. Oh, well, you know, if he cared as much about me as he did, like she's disparaging Dan Markel, her ex-husband that's been murdered. And then has the audacity to come in here and defend her family. You heard the testimony from Jeffrey Lacoste. I know you all heard that.
That was awesome how Tara said all that about Wendy, I have to say. Leanne, thank you for the jewels, the sparkles. Very kind. Thank you so much.
I brought this out. There's more evidence against Wendy Adelson than there is against Catherine McDaniel, and they give her immunity. Don't you see what is happening here, Katie? I mean, members of the jury. What the plan was, Lewis was to give us Katie, Katie will give us Charlie, and there we go. It would work. Sully, they're going on a trip to the Keys. This is in June. This is the goodbye tour. He was going to start breaking up with Katie, assuming that the murder was going to go down. That is why Garcia was so mad when he saw them together on July 1st. It's a couple weeks later that Dan Markel is murdered in cold blood in his driveway. And then what's even more telling, members of the jury, just like that, right after the murder, the communications are no longer romantic. I just want to be friends. You really gonna break up with the girl or that you just conspired to commit murder with? Now, they also make this big deal about how, oh, look, the cell phone towers say that, oh, she's driving up to Yindra and she's going to drop off the kids because she needs to go what? If she was planning this murder and knew it was going to happen, you don't think she would have made plans to have someone else watch the kids way in advance? Remember that oath that you took at the beginning of this case, the promise you made.
No, I definitely don't think Katie would have made plans in advance. I don't think the girl thought like that. Catherine, you're asking, wasn't the plea deal opportunity before Tara's time? No. It was offered to Katie at the first trial. Then she got the hung jury and they offered it to her again. And she still wouldn't take it. So Tara and Chris, I'm pretty sure they could have convinced Katie to take it. But they were just convinced of her innocence.
To look at the evidence in this case objectively. That's what we've been waiting on. We need objectivity. I told you, and so did the judge, leave everything that you thought that you knew about this case at the door. I saw you all waiting during the case at the edge of your seats, waiting for the state to bring you, like she says, the smoking gun that she was involved. Where's that? Where? Was it Luis Rivera? The worst witness to have ever existed on the face of the planet. That's what they gave to you. That unreliable word of Luis Rivera and nothing more. Go back and listen to the Dolce Vita. That's how confident I am, because I know for a fact there's nothing on there, because she is innocent. Justice for Dan Markel is not convicting an innocent person of this crime. In fact, it would be a travesty of justice to convict Ms. McDaniel of any of the charges in this case. She is across the board not guilty. And remember, members of it, she had nothing to do with this. That's what we're telling you. Nothing, no part of it. The state is throwing all of these charges at you, hoping and praying that you just one of them will stick. That's all they want, just one. But I'm telling you, she is not guilty of all three. You cannot convict her for having awful taste in men. You cannot convict her because the father of her children is a scumbag. You cannot convict her because she ended up dating Charles Adelson, probably one of the worst human beings on the face of the planet. She didn't know, members of the jury. And what the evidence in this case has proven to you is that she is not guilty of every single count. Please take the time to evaluate the evidence in this case. We have come this far. I'm confident that when you all sit there and you go over everything for yourself, you're going to see that she didn't do this, members of the jury. She's innocent. Find her not guilty.
Catherine Lacoste says, Katie isn't Wendy. Only Wendy packed, canceled cable, took down drawings to pack, gave away clothes in advance, and had the locks changed to boot. Great point.
Thank you, Ms. Claus.
Thank you. So unfortunately, I cannot take up Mrs. Colossus' invitation to explain to you why it is that criminal defendants choose to exercise their constitutional right and take a case to trial as opposed to doing a deal or taking a plea offer. Maybe she thinks she has very talented lawyers. Maybe she thinks she has a good chance of walking out of here. Maybe she thinks if she gets convicted, she'll offer to do something for me then. We'll see how that goes. Maybe she's getting a big payoff. Maybe somebody's threatened to do something to her. I don't know. Oh, we tried to get in this thing and y'all didn't get to hear it and they're hiding it. It must be something really good. That's speculation. That item is not in evidence because it was not admissible and you cannot speculate about it. Please do not accept their invitation to do that. The judge has instructed you that a reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. So y'all have to really assess what is reasonable when you're back there. And you were chosen because you have common sense and you know how to do that. It's address some of the coincidences that really you have to buy in order to buy the defense theory in this case. I mean, everyone sort of agrees. You look at it and you think, yeah, she's in the middle. In order to buy the defense's theory that this evidence is not as it appears, you have to find that there are several things that are coincidences. And I'm sure you can think of a lot more, but I wrote down a few. The defendant went to the rental car place. Okay, I mean, there's evidence she went to the rental car place. She says, no, I was visiting Kenya. But God, what a terrible coincidence that she's visiting Kenya both times that the rental car is getting rented and returned. Money spike in this case. And you all have seen repeatedly that graph with the big spike in her cash that occurs right around the time of this murder. And she says this is not as it appears. It is often said that the best explanation is the simplest one. Or one explanation, one that is simple, explains everything, and is, I think, very well articulated and proven by the evidence that y'all have been held hostage and forced to listen to and see for the last 10 days. How many coincidences does it take for it to no longer be a coincidence? She sent a text message to Charlie Adelson in 2015 that says, next time, don't be such a dick to someone that has done something for you. In her own words, those are the most damaging pieces of evidence in this case, not the words of the Katie that you saw on the witness stand yesterday, but the Katie that you met in those phone calls. Her own words are the thing that hangs her worse than anything else y'all have seen. One truth, which is determined by the evidence. One verdict in this case that speaks the truth. What Catherine McDaniel is going through is not the worst nightmare that anyone can imagine. Her being compelled to answer for what she did in this case, for what she set into motion, that is not the worst nightmare that anyone can imagine. This is what this case is about. Find her guilty. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Kaplan.
Boom, boom. That was awesome. See, Georgia, I thought that was one of her best personally. Thank you, Leanne, for the memberships. All right. So then the closings were done in that very fast 28-minute video at 1.5 or 1.25. Then it was time for jury to deliberate. And we know that is a tense time. They went to deliberations just before 1 p.m. Then around 4:45, the jury sent a note. They wanted to hear the Dolce Vita recording one more time. So they all come back into the courtroom and they put their headphones on. And then they deliberate for 3 more hours. So they deliberated for almost or about 8 hours. So I will now play the verdict so we can all hear Katie's whimpering. Thanks, Carol Penny. You know, just as Jason was saying, we're all doing this just to create this footprint, if you will, out here on YouTube and the internet so that anyone that wonders in many years down the road and wants to know the truth, they can come here and see it all.
All right. It's my understanding that the jury has reached a verdict. Anything before we bring the jury in? Ms. Kappelman,
No, Your Honor.
for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring the jury in, please.
So this is Judge Wheeler. So this is 2022. Judge Hankinson was the judge in 2019. That he then retired and then he died. I don't know if he was dead at this point yet, but Judge Wheeler was the judge on the second trial.
Justice Bezak? Oh, I can see. Well,
Okay, well, so.
Yeah, you can remain seated. Thank you.
Jury entering the courtroom.
All right, please be seated. Juror number 4, are you the foreperson?
Yes, sir.
And has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, sir.
If you could please hand the verdict form to the bailiff. Thank you. All right, the verdict appears to be in proper form. I will now read the verdict. In the case of the state of Florida versus Catherine D. Magbanowa, case number 2016 CF 3036 and 2018 CF 497, we, the jury, find as follows as to count 1. A, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2. A, the defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3. A, the defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. Does either party wish?
Well, Katie, you had your chance. And Ruth looked at Georgia and said, you did it. They felt, after that first trial, they were feeling They were never prepared for that hung jury. Georgia Kappelman said that she was happy she could obtain some justice for Dan's family. They've been through hell and back, and I'm just thrilled to be able to give them a piece of peace in their lives. Dan's father, Phil Markel, dwelled on the long, difficult journey he and his family had been on since his son's life was snatched from them by an assassin's gunshots. The wheels of justice turn very, very slowly, he lamented, but we're grateful they're still turning. Then Epstein comments that in just 6 weeks' time, originally the Markels' quest was going really slowly. We just had Sigfredo and Luis Rivera convicted, and now things were different. Late in the evening on May 27th, 2022, 4 of Dan's killers were now behind bars, including Charlie Adelson, 3 convicted for their atrocious crimes, and the Playboy Periodontists seemingly headed in that direction. Then also, Epstein says Garcia had good reason not to spill his guts while Katie was fighting the charges against her, as any truthful information he would have shared would have harmed her more than anyone. That calculus changed the instant the jury found her guilty. Then the state comes out and says they're not seeking the death penalty for Charlie. And Epstein mentions that Charlie was in jail probably thinking anybody could flip at any time or my mom might be cuffed. Wow, how all of that happened, right? And he remarks that the maestro was no longer in control. And the last sentence of the book, full and complete justice for Daniel Eric Markel and his family may be just around the corner. He also in the epilogue mentions that Phil and Ruth Markel did get to have a visit with the boys. It was in April of 2022, right before Wendy testified in this trial in May of 2022. They had not seen the boys in 6 years. Can you even imagine? So this is the paragraph I'm going to read. While Georgia Kappelman and Pat Sanford were laying out their evidence against Charlie Adelson before the grand jury in Tallahassee, Ruth and Phil Markel were working their way through the bustling Miami International Airport, having flown in from Toronto just for the day. It had been 6 excruciating years since they'd last seen their grandsons, Ben and Lincoln. Years in which they'd fought tirelessly for the expansion of grandparents' rights at the Florida legislature, ultimately garnering a near unanimous vote for a bill informally named the Markel Act that was currently sitting on Governor Ron DeSantis' desk awaiting his signature. With Wendy expecting to testify in the upcoming retrial and not wanting to appear as mean-spirited as she had at the previous trial, then she admitted to, when she had to admit to preventing Ruth and Phil from visiting their grandsons, she reached out by email to invite them to Ben's upcoming bar mitzvah. Of course, we know later that she rescinded that. Their proposal for a separate meeting the day before the bar mitzvah ultimately morphed into an after-school visit at a restaurant at an outdoor shopping plaza in South Beach on Wednesday, April 20th. So just keep in mind, Georgia Kappelman's up there at the grand jury presenting for Charlie's arrest because he was arrested early morning of the 21st. The Markels were visiting. And it was there that Ruth and Phil stood at 3:30 p.m. that afternoon at the eatery's outdoor patio, nervously awaiting the arrival of their deceased son's precious cubbies. The anticipation they felt as they glimpsed Wendy and the boys walking toward them was almost unbearable. Ben and Lincoln had been 4 and 3 that fateful July morning when their dad's life was snuffed out by bullets. They were 6 and 5 when Dan's parents had last seen them in April of 2016. Ben was now 12 and Lincoln 11. Ruth and Phil marveled at Ben's height as he neared them at 5'9", nearly as tall as his father had been as an adult. and Lincoln was a spitting image of Dan, the same age, with his lush blonde hair flowing freely in the afternoon breeze. Ruth and Phil asked if they could greet them with the hugs, and the preteens gladly accepted. They wrapped their arms around their grandmother and grandfather, their embraces seemingly warm and genuine. Wendy, who was accompanied by a male friend, hung back, ultimately claiming an adjacent table. Before long, Phil pulled out his iPad, on which he'd created an album of pictures of Dan and his children when they were toddlers. Together, they swiped through photo after photo. Ben and Lincoln taking keen interest in the images they had not seen in years. It was evident to Ruth and Phil that the boys knew who they were and that they still felt genuine affection for their father, their Abba, and they'd know only through pictures for the remainder of their lives. It was a 90-minute visit that flew by. Ben and Lincoln smiled and hugged them again before following their mother out of the restaurant. Wow. The last sentence, he said, though they had grave doubts about how soon or even whether they'd get to see the boys again, in that amazing moment, their son Danny stirred in their hearts. Does that not just give you a little bit of goosebumps and some hope? Yeah, Katie was never believable. I agree. Yes, Skier. Gosh, the emotional toll it's taken on the Markels. So true. Melissa, she finally had her come to Jesus moment, too late for her complete immunity. That's right. How much more time does she have to experience true justice? Yeah, Catherine, good question. Catherine, wonder why Charlie didn't see the writing on the wall when Katie was arrested and go to Vietnam then. I've wondered that myself. Arrogance and entitlement got in the way. You should do shorts, Renita says, about the evidence of Wendy keeping the boys from the Markels for visibility. That's a good idea. I should. Hey, Nancy. Hi, Leslie. Love that you did the book, Keeping This Case in the Forefront. You're welcome. Beach chillin'. Maestro no longer in control is so apropos. He's no longer in control of Secreto Katie, the joint defense, his finances. That's right. I mean, he doesn't even get to control when he eats or what he eats, or when he goes to the bathroom, or when he takes a shower. Melissa, Adelsons were protected by Willie Meggs. As soon as he was gone, all bets were off. Whimsical, catching up here. Do we think Charlie's stress stayed at post-bump levels all the way through he was arrested to 2022? Oh, I do. I mean, he was adding barbed wire and razor wire at his home, and they commented on all those guns. His friends told how much paranoia he had. June said how awful it was. He wasn't sleeping. Tater, instead of Charlie's angels, we got Charlie's demons. Here for today. When Epstein wrote that Lincoln looked just like Dan, how hard for Ruth and Phil to have Wendy deprive them of seeing the boys after that, right? I think I'm feeling hopeful about the boys. I really am. Skier. Ruth talks about warm hugs with the boys versus Donna telling Charlie that the boys felt awkward about hugging them. Donna always twists facts. Yes, and she's like, and they didn't even kiss them. They were being respectful. I mean, these were preteens now. It's been 6 years, and they asked their permission. I think Ruth says they always would speak with a therapist before they would see or talk with the boys, just to kind of meet them where they are in their age. Catherine, heartbreaking that such a great father was taken in such a cruel way just to satisfy the whims of his ex-wife. I know, Jenny. I hate hearing Donna talk about how weird the boys' visit was with the Markels. Yeah, it was just all Donna. But thank y'all. So we have wrapped it up, and I highly recommend the book. It's got great information and details, and it's just too much to share. There's pictures in the back. I mean, most of which y'all have seen, but Thank you. I'm going to do a poll soon about what book next. I have a couple of thoughts. One is the Murdaugh book. Another one was Matt Murphy's book, and then also Cheryl McCollum, the Cold Case Unit. That was another one. So those are kind of the three I'm thinking about. Linda, hey all, was listening on download. Great job with the clips. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you could listen on the download. Hey, John Smith, BS in Donna's mind to justify what they did. Absolutely. Here for today. I'm not going to read that out loud, but I will put it on the screen, and I have heard that too. Catherine, yeah, Donna won't ever get to see them again. That's right. Well, I want to thank you all for your patience as we got through this. I know it was a little over 2 hours. It was lengthy. And justice for Dan Markel. That's why we're all here, and we're going to keep on the fight. I will be scheduling the next Adelson group therapy session. So I hope that y'all can all come to that on Wednesday night. So be on the lookout. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great one. Bye.
Like and subscribe because every case has more to the story. I'm Leslie B.